I wouldn't bring charges unless I was confident.
Back on May 5th, 2021, District Attorney Linda Stanley stood in front of the Chaffee County Courthouse and confidently announced that Barry Morphew had been arrested and charged with murder in connection with his wife's disappearance.
And it's about all the individuals that knew her and loved her and cared about her.
Less than a year later, she dropped the charges against Morphew, just days before the case was set to go to trial. 9 News has learned the Colorado Office of Attorney Regulation Counsel is now investigating her based on allegations of wrongdoing. The office has the power to discipline attorneys across the state, but does not elaborate on the parameters or details of active investigations.
I've been interviewed by the Office of Attorney Regulation Counsel as a witness regarding a complaint that was made against Linda Stanley, and I don't know who else, if anybody else, regarding the Morphew prosecution.
Iris Eaton is Barry Morphew's attorney and has spoken out for months that her client was wrongly charged and Stanley committed prosecutorial misconduct. Eaton says she did not file the complaint, but plans to file a separate one.
I do not think Linda Stanley should be able to prosecute people anymore.
Stanley told 9 News Monday night she did not think the investigation into her conduct was public because, quote, no one is assumed to have violated any rules. While we don't know what the investigation centers around, Eaton says she provided information about the Morphew case in particular.
I provided them with documents and videos, transcripts that backed up my belief that the prosecution team committed significant unethical misconduct.
Stanley dropped charges against Morphew last April, arguing investigators believe they were close to finding Suzanne Morphew's missing body under several feet of snow. 6 months later, the body has not been found, and prosecutors admitted they were wronged in court last week.
We thought back in May that we were close, that it was going to be soon that we were going to find Suzanne Morphew. Obviously, we were wrong.
In Denver, I'm Mark Salinger, 9 News.
Prosecutors said in court last week that law enforcement is still actively looking for Suzanne Morphew 2.5 years after she disappeared. They didn't provide any details about how or where they're searching. District Attorney Stanley told 9 News tonight she stands by her decision to dismiss the charges last April, given the information they had.
I just finished uploading a 6-part series explaining why I won't play politics with people's lives. And in this case, I believe people are playing politics with Suzanne's life. It's no secret that America's civil unrest has alarmed those of us watching on from the sidelines. And it mimics much of the civil unrest that we see happening throughout the world, where the American government has been directly involved in creating civil disunity. I'm not sure what to make of Linda Stanley's current predicaments, and I'm hesitant to play political games because I don't believe that that is conducive to finding Suzanne and subsequently prosecuting Barry. From the arrest affidavit and Barry's subsequent other arrests, we know that Barry voted for Trump and made an absentee vote for Suzanne, also voting for Trump. Knowing what we do of Barry's manipulative personality so far, I suspect he is using politics to avoid being charged again. Suspecting that and having evidence of it are two completely different things. I just find it interesting that his attorney, Iris Eaton, is a hard left-winger and he himself is a hard right-winger, and that Linda Stanley's position and subsequent predicaments do follow this pattern of the left and right division that is currently disabling America's democracy. I suspect Barry's thinking like I am, that if he ties the current team up in litigation, they can't rightly be the same team who will bring future charges against him. And so to me, this whole thing reeks of pure manipulation, Barry-style manipulation. Of course, we know he has no respect for women. He just has an all-female team because he thinks they're easier to manipulate. What I hope people are learning from my Suzanne series is that it's not the prosecution saying that Barry was a manipulative domestic abuser. It was Barry's own wife saying it. It has very little to do with Linda Stanley, except the fact that she was the DA who brought the charges against him. About the only way I think that this could have turned out differently is if a man had been the DA that brought the charges against Barry, because he literally has no respect for women whatsoever, except the ones he can manipulate. And Linda Stanley was not one of the ones that he could manipulate. I sometimes get great satisfaction out of seeing a female judge put in front of a blatant misogynist. And I truly hope at the other end of all of this that that's what happens to Barry. I hope the next DA, be they left or right, ends up being a female, and I hope the judge put in front of him happens to be a female as well. That's a court case I'm going to enjoy from start to end.